Hello, everybody. Good evening. Happy Friday evening. What are you guys up to for the weekend? First of all, I want to send you Jess's love and apology this evening. So she's not able to make it for you, guys, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm filling in for her. My name is Grace Harris. I'm usually on Sunday evenings at 7:15, and I talk about the Atomic Self-Love Project. And tonight I've got something very special that I wanted to share with you all. But yeah, say hello on the chat and let me know where you're hailing from. That's always a fun thing, to share where we're coming from, what the time is where you are, what the weather has been like for you. I'm on the border of New South Wales and Queensland in Australia. I'm just on the Terranora town here. It's beautiful, beautiful, kind of like almost a country area, but not very far from the beach at all. And so I've got Carrie. Hi, good evening. Libby, Wendy, um, Libby's from Brisbane. Yeah, and Carrie, nice to see you here this evening. Wendy's from Sydney. We've had some beautiful weather up here. Hey, I know it's been raining for almost all of February and almost all of March, and in the beginning of April as well on the Easter. But it seems like the sun is holding up, so that's really refreshing. I mean, I love the rain, but um it's sometimes it's also nice to have a break from the water, so just a little bit of the yin and the yang there for you. Now, I know Jess usually does readings with you, the archetypal readings. Tonight, we're going to do something different. So, for those who've never listened to me before, have never met me before, my name is Grace Harris. I'm an author and I'm also a transformational coach. Now, in 2020, I've written the book Become the Woman of Your Dreams. It's a memoir and it's available on Amazon if you want to check it out. But basically, this is what happened, right? So, the book is an Amazon best-selling book, and it's a memoir. It's about my story from my struggles to how I healed myself. And the struggle was the abandonment and the abuse from when I was a child. But it was interesting because 3 weeks ago, I was reading my own book again, and I did that for like 6 7 hours, just leisurely reading. I just thought, oh, I'll just read it again. It's been months, and I read it, and you know what? I might as well have called that book Toxic, because it was pretty much a chronicle of all the toxic relationships that I've gone through and healed from. I see that my Wi-Fi here is a little bit slow. So I'm gonna just observe it for a second because I don't want to be cutting off on you. But yeah, so I read my own book, which is my memoir. I've read it before, but I just had this one day when I just wanted to read it again. And it is called Become the Woman of Your Dreams. It's about empowered healing from the abuse and the abandonment that I've experienced. But after reading it for the second time about 3 weeks ago, I thought to myself, this book might as well have been called Toxic, because it's about healing from toxic relationships. And interestingly, on Monday for 5 days, I'm running a free Break the Cycle of Toxic Relationships challenge. It's open to every woman out there who are wanting to heal from toxic relationships, wanting to break cycles of toxic relationships that you are currently at the moment, whether that is a romantic toxic relationship, a familial toxic relationship, within between you and your family members, or between you and friends, or between you and a professional colleague, your boss, or a business colleague. So toxic relationships are everywhere, right? So tonight we're going to do something fun. I know that this is a live Facebook feed, and I am often 5 to 10 seconds behind you. When you put a comment, it'll take me about 5 to 6 seconds or 10 seconds even to see it. But I want to just hi, Sonny. Thank you. Yeah, isn't it? And I know, Sonny, that you are probably doing something similar. I mean, people that recognize the value of what someone is doing, it's because it's a journey that you're also on. And so I honor that collective vibe that we share. So thank you for being here tonight. Now, I wanted to gather the collective feeling here about relationships this evening, if you're someone that's been through a toxic relationship, or currently in one toxic relationship right now, or probably several, please let me know by saying yes. And if that's only if you want to share. And if you're someone who doesn't even know exactly what toxic relationship is and feel that's something that you've never been in before, just say no. And if you're someone who feel that maybe or maybe not, because you're not sure, there's a little bit of discomfort there, and even a trigger when the word toxic relationship or narcissistic relationship is mentioned. You get a little bit uncomfortable, you get a little bit awkward. So that's, I'm not sure. There's something there. It's either you've gone through it or someone that you really care about is going through it. And it's worth exploring. Because here's the thing, even if you've never been through a toxic relationship, it pays to learn to recognize the characteristics and the nature of toxic relationships, because one way or another, someone that you love, someone that's close to you, someone that you care about is going to go through some kind of a toxic relationship in their life. And if you know these natures and these characteristics of toxic relationships, you are potentially going to be able to save their life, and not just their life but their future. You're right. There's a saying, once you save someone's life, you are responsible for their future. It's because you've already saved that life from going away, and therefore you've got to be there for the growth, that's the rebirth of that life. And so I honor you for being here tonight, and just for even being vulnerably sharing. Elizabeth is saying, yes, I have been through or are going through that. Wendy says, I understand toxicity. Kristen says, several. Yeah, that was me, several. And yeah, so look, this is probably the third similar conversation that I've had this week, a lengthy conversation about these catastrophic effects of toxic relationships through a live feed on a social media platform. And I want to share with you that hardly have I encountered a live conversation where the majority was a no or I'm not sure. And it just is such a telling of what we are going through, because almost everyone says yes, I'm going through it, I've been through it, or I know about it. Now, the question then begs, how do we break the cycle? Right? Because we know we go through it. We know we're in it. We know what it looks like. We have people that we love that go through it. But the question becomes, how do you break it? I remember in December, I asked my partner, I said, honey, what do you want for Christmas? And he said, well, I threw away my Ugg boots last winter because they were old. So I'd love to have a pair of Ugg boots. So I went to this shop in Tweed Heads. It was called Tweed Ugg or something. I thought they were still trading Ugg boots. So I went there, and so they were closing up shop because the COVID had just really slowed down the traffic. But I got talking to this woman for some reason, and she was sharing with me, we're going to be traveling soon and I'm really looking forward to it. And so she asked me about what I do, and when I told her about what I do, she shared with me about her daughter who's going through a very, very toxic relationship. And and it and it was it really, my heart went out to the mother, because I have a 19-year-old daughter, like a little girl. Although she's my baby, she's old enough that she has relationships, and I put myself in the shoes of the mom that I was talking to, witnessing her daughter go through a toxic relationship, and not knowing how she can intervene, or without being ostracized by her own child, without being told to go away, leave me alone, or like that understanding that I'm here for you. I don't want to break your heart, I don't want to break your relationships, I want to help you break the cycle. And the hardest part of the cycle is that more often than not, especially in the cycle of toxicity and narcissism, there's always a part of toxicity in our relationship that we have inherited from when we were children. Whether we've witnessed that toxicity from our parents, from our uncles, from people that raised us. And I'm going to share my story with you. tonight, for those who have not heard it. And I'm going to condense it a little bit. But just to give you an overview of how I first got familiar with what I thought was the normal type of relationships. So when I was 5 years old, my mother said to me that we're going to go for a visit to my grandmother. And I was very excited. I was very excited. I put on my one and only going out dress. When we got to my grandmother, though, the first thing she said to me was, "You stay here and I'll be back for you this afternoon." And what do? You're a little child, you believe your mom. And so I went on with my business, visiting, playing. And early in the afternoon, after lunch, I started to get tired. And so I went to the front outside my grandmother's house waiting for my mom. Now we have these things called tricycles. They're public utility vehicles. And whenever I saw one coming from the top of the street, coming down to the street, I would jump up and down and say, that's my mama coming to fetch me. And it would pass by and my mother wouldn't be there. And I'll just, and I'll renew my hope and I'll say, oh, but she'll be in the next one, and then I'll see another one. And I'll say, that's my mama, that's my mama. And she's not there. And then it was such a bright day, bright blue sky. And then there was a moment after about 20 tricycles when I look up to the sky and the blue sky had faded into a dark gray. It was like it was dusk. The sun was setting. And there was a moment when I realized that she was never coming back, like she said she would. And my heart started to shut down. Now, what happened to me was over a course of a long time, I was subjected to, because I was abandoned in this house, and I was subjected to different types of abuse, right? And a lot of neglect. But what I saw was normal for me because that's all I had. And so I saw people were fighting all the time. The way that they resolved their conflicts was they shouted at each other, they hurt one another, they backstabbed each other. And these were like people that are married to each other, or their siblings, or they're like close neighbors. And sometimes they would fight over their bickering legally, sometimes physically. It's all that I learned, it's all that I knew. And I didn't know how much of that I absorbed until I got into my first very, very serious relationship with my fiance when I was 24, with the man that I was about to marry. And so then when I got serious in that relationship, I then started my own cycle of toxic relationships. And here's the thing, I never intended to be part of a toxic relationship, but I myself had a lot of toxicity in me because how I behaved was all that I knew. How I behaved was, I thought, was the normal of relationship. And here I come attracting exactly a person who's very similar to me. And so it was like a tango. It was like a tit for tat, toxic plus toxic. And it was, and we were doing this dance. Sometimes it was my turn to be a narcissist, and it was his turn to be an empath, a victim, and vice versa. And it took me a long time, a lot of years, different relationships, to realize that I was just spiraling down no matter what I did. Like, for some reason I could, hi Diane, nice to have you here. Thank you for listening. So one day I just, what happened to me was that I had a near death experience. And when I had this near death experience, I woke up on a hospital bed and I realized that I wondered why everything I put my mind to, I can achieve when it comes to money, when it comes to career, when it comes to just like outward experiences. I traveled the world with my kids. I would just, whatever I wanted to do, I could do. But the one thing that I really longed for, that I never really, really felt truly, which is love, and it was the one thing that really mattered to me, for the life of me, I could not achieve it. I could not manifest true love. And there were, I didn't even know what was love for myself. I wasn't aware. It was just a complete unawareness. And so it was this awakening. I had to almost die first before I had this awakening in 2013. And ever since then, I've become just so obsessed in healing my life. And one of the biggest healing I've ever done is spending 23 months writing my memoir. And there were moments when I felt like crawling in a fetal position, in a corner for like 4 days or 3 days, because memories would flood back in, memories that I've suppressed so desperately so I didn't have to remember them. But to heal, I had to uncover all of that and to come square with my wounded child, and with all the things, the transgressions that I've, done to myself and the people that I care. And Danielle says, I've just come out of this. And yeah, so I know that space, Danielle. Absolutely, yeah. So there's remnants that the sustainability of healing is another thing. Like when you realize you need to heal, it's one thing, but to sustain the healing, we really need that community to nurture us. And so, I've been blessed to have found that, with and found and created, I should say, found a person, and with that person together we created the healing. And I'll go into that later on with you guys. But tonight, I just want to put out there that there are 5 catastrophic effects of a toxic relationships. And at the end of this, I'll share with you how really you can sustainably heal from these catastrophic effects. But catastrophic means they could kill you pretty much. And I know some people here that have been through that, you would agree with me. Like what the first one is that it shuts your heart down. Who here has been, Danielle, you've been through this, just as you said, you would have noticed how much your heart would shut down when you're in a toxic relationship. You find yourself just a little bit more a little bit more sarcastic, a little bit more cynical, a little bit more um, distrusting of people. Like everyone becomes sus to you. Like what they say to you, when normally you would be open and you would be you're receiving of advice, opinion, of loving words, you always have that grain of salt in what they say, because you're losing trust. And the saddest thing of all is when you start to lose trust from the people outside, that distrust comes closer and closer and stronger until it shuts your heart down and you lose trust on yourself. You don't know who you are anymore. That heart is so that self-protective mechanism will just shut itself down because it's just so painful. Like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to be in pain, I don't want to break anymore. And so it shut itself down, and you're numb. Like when someone is in pain, you're looking at them and you're trying to feel for them, you're trying to empathize for them, but it's not there. Have you ever had a time when you're usually a cry baby but you can't cry anymore? Like, I just want to cry but tears won't come out, the emotions won't open. It's because you're numbing out because the pain had been too much for you, and it's very catastrophic. And for me, that's the number one thing that's really, when I was 5 years old, that's the first thing that happened to me. It started to shut down when I realized that moment that my mother had, for some reason, she made the decision. And don't get me wrong, I am forever grateful to all the decisions that my mother had made, when I was during that time, because if not for all those, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have this life today of being able to serve, of being able to openly love and receive love. And so, yeah, so the second catastrophic effect is that when your heart had shut down and then it travels up to your brain, it poisons your mind. And then so and I'll give you a very solid example. So when I was a little girl, when my heart started to shut down, then all I could operate on was my mind, because this had shut down. So all I had was this, right? And so this had become poisoned. It had to split into two and hid the inner child. And I had developed this coping mechanism, a personality that was just so ferocious. And this personality was always discerning, was always distrusting, was always like, she was like such a verbal warrior as well. Like no one would win over her in an argument. It was, for a while she was a good warrior, but later on she became such a liability in the life that I wanted to lead, because it's your mind, your belief systems absorbing everything that you can see. And what you can see are all negative, then your mind becomes poisoned. And so you find yourself so anxious and paranoid. And if you're not careful, you might find yourself with suicidal thoughts. I know in my marriage, I tried to take my own life. This is like years and years ago now, 17, 18 years ago. I was lucky enough that, I woke up 3 days later in a hospital, and I have no memory of those 72 hours, because I was just, yeah, I tried to take my own life. And so I've had two near death experiences, all from toxic relationships. And it was the second one in 2013 that had really, really shook me out of my slumber, really awakened me. And so I had a shut down heart, I had like a poisoned mind, and the third catastrophic effect was that is it it weakens your immune system, right? So I'd love to know, I'd love to hear, people, who anyone here who's suffering from ailments and illnesses that are mysteriously appearing, mysteriously coming up, and you try and do everything that you can to address it. You've done the scientific part, go to the doctor, the specialists. You might have done other healing modalities, kinesiology, whatever you may have gone through, any type of healing. And for some reason, and Kelly here says fibromyalgia. It's just something that is somehow unaddressable. So this the immune system is telling you something. And what I can say to you, Kelly, is because you've answered the question, is that there are so many mysterious things, but what it is really is that because your heart had shut down, it's not communicating anymore. It's shut down, and your mind is a little bit, it's just not itself anymore. It's mutated itself into belief systems that are negatively pulling you down. It's now your body that's communicating with you that there are some deep things that need to be addressed. And I know in my second toxic relationship, I had like, no, actually in my first one, which was the marriage, I had all cysts growing through my body. And so I had a right thyroidectomy, so I now have only one thyroid, which is the left one. But the thyroidectomy was because there was this cyst that grew to a size of a mini golf ball from nowhere at a speed that was really alarming. And it was one of the most difficult times in my marriage, because I had overheard a conversation that I wasn't meant to hear. And it was then when it got inflamed, the whole entire immune system. And then in my second toxic relationship, and this is all in my book, like it's an open book now, literally. You can look it up on Amazon, Become the Woman of Your Dreams. I had this broken shoulder. It was funny because I went to I don't know what's a bone doctor called. I can't even remember now. And he says to me, we need to do an arthroscopy. You have an injury that sports an impact that was caused by sports injury. And I said to him, with all due respect, doctor, I don't play sports. Like this could not have been from sports. And he said, well, I don't know where it's from, but all I can say, it's a high impact that's similar to a sports injury. You know what I mean? Like I had no idea. So and yeah, so just your immune system is weakening, that it's communicating with you. And so, because these three things, it's like the trifecta catastrophe, your heart, your mind, your body shuts down, all of them is shutting down on you. Now, you start then to do the fourth catastrophic effect of toxic relationship, which is what you do is what we call like the elephant in the room. And this elephant in the room is like everybody knows about it, but nobody wants to talk about it. And it's the fact that we all, your friends, your loving family, your loving colleagues at work, in business, they can see that you're going through something, but you don't want to acknowledge it because you're alienating and isolating yourself from the loving reality waiting for you. And that's the fourth catastrophe, number four. Everything shuts down, heart, mind, body, and then you isolate yourself. It's hard for you to open it up because you're trying to put up a facade, right? I know when I was, and I share this a lot, I was in a corporate industry. before I'm doing what I'm doing now. I was there for a long time, and I loved my colleagues. They loved me. They cared about me as I cared about them. It was the first time in my life that I actually started to trust people, because genuinely every day when you rock up to work, they say to you, how are you this morning? How was your weekend? And I've never had that. In my like first 20 something years of my life, until I joined this corporate career. And so because I love them, I didn't want to offload on them. I didn't want to. I thought it was. I thought I was doing myself a favor and them a favor by alienating my experience and isolating my emotions and shutting everything off from everyone. But the truth is, if you ask them now, they knew anyway. But they were waiting for me to open up first, because I was someone who looked like I was so capable that maybe I didn't want to talk about it. Like I was a high achiever at work, and I could do everything that I want to do. And people just think maybe she doesn't want to talk about it. And so when you isolate yourself, people also start to alienate themselves from you. You just start to create that rift. And the next thing, you wake up one morning and you're thinking to yourself, what the hell is going on? Everything is shutting down in my system, and I'm losing connections. Not just connection with myself, but literally connections with my family and my friends. It's catastrophic, man. It just is. And I'm just so Diane says stomach problem. So that's your, they say, Diane, it's just so interesting with the stomach, the gut, they say it's your second brain. It actually, if this brain up here is unable to communicate exactly what's going on, your gut will tell you. And Kelly says back, your back, her back as well, and always getting colds that don't get better, and always exhausted. I'd love for you ladies to to join me on the free 5-day break the cycle of toxic relationships starting on Monday. The link is up on this video, above this video. And yeah, it's at 8 o'clock every night from Monday until Friday. I'm starting Monday on the 19th, and I'll put the link here, because we will explore deeper into how you can really break this cycle. But tonight, I want to just cover these 5 catastrophic effects, because it's just so important just to be aware. If you are wondering, I know that this is, especially in this community, we are all empowered that we want to heal, but often, and in with different experiences with my clients, one healing modality usually just does not work. You need to find the right fit, and sometimes the right fit is is a stack of different healing modalities, and it's your job to find what those stacks of healing modalities are. And what I truly truly believe is that when you heal yourself, you've got to have all these tools for your heart, for your mind, for your physical body. For example, movement, yoga, tai chi, qigong for your body, meditation for your mind, and your soul purpose for your heart. You do something that you love, creativity, artwork, whatever that is. And a spiritual mentor to go deeper into all of your experiences. You got to stack them, because the healing is not a one-time thing that you say, I want to, please heal me, and then you go away and you're done. It's not. I mean, you've spent so many decades wounding yourself. You've spent so many decades in cycles of toxicity that it's not just going to disappear one day. You need this a community support and awareness and constant validation and affirmation of who you truly are and what you're really capable of. And so I highly encourage all of you who are listening tonight. The link is in here to join the free 5-day break the cycle of toxic relationships challenge, and we will go deep into this topic as well. So the fifth and the most deadliest, fatal, catastrophic effect of a toxic relationship is, you know, if you don't address what you've been through, what you're going through right now, it's an inevitable that you're going to repeat it. you will do it again, unconsciously or consciously, intentionally or unintentionally. You will do it again. You will go back into it again. You might go back to the same person. It might be a different person, but the cycle is going to be worse because it's gonna break you down some more. Your immune system that's already broken down will be broken down some more. So it becomes the fifth most catastrophic and deadliest effect of a toxic relationship is that when you go back into the cycle willingly, because it's all that you know, it's all that you're familiar with, it's all that you've ever been comfortable with, and you've never had help. And it's so hard to find the light, to get out of it and actually get yourself what you really deserve. And this cycle is, nothing short of a deadly cycle. And the repetitiveness of it is just, something that I'm just so passionate to help women to just pull you out of the cycle and just show you exactly how divine you are and what you truly deserve. Now, how do you, I'll share with you one of the most basic tools that you can get started with in healing from toxic relationships. And this is going to be elementary to some of you because this is something you might say, oh yeah, like I've heard about that before, or I think I already do that. But if you really look into it, there's so much into it. And I'm actually going to show you a book. So, who here likes to go to antique shops? I do. So I went to Lismore. This is like inner western, inner west, like northwest of Australia. It's a beautiful, beautiful town. It's about an hour from where I live. Southwest from where I live. So they sell like old plates, old lamps, old tables, old everything, including old books. And I'm like the bookworm that I am. I spent like an hour like browsing through these books, and look what I found. So this is a book. This book is written by Albert Einstein before he was famously Albert Einstein, right? And the previous owner of this book had written a date here, 29th of March 1954. And so I estimate this book to have been produced and published around, I don't know, 1940s or something like that. And so this book is technically easily 90 years old now, and it's not in circulation anymore. So it's literally a rare, unique, old, antique, vintage book. So I start reading, and I'm like, I wonder what Einstein was talking about or thinking about back in the day before he was Albert Einstein famously. So on page 7, I read page 7. I'm going to read it to you. It's not long, it's only a few sentences, and it's down here, down on the bottom here. And when I read it, my jaw dropped to the floor, literally, because it's so basic, it's so elementary, it's what everyone is talking about. Eckhart Tolle talks about this, the author of The Power of Now. Viktor Frankl talks about this. The author of Man. I forgot the name of his book, but so I'll read it to you. It says the true value of a human being is determined primarily by the measure and the sense in which he has attained to liberation from the self. Now I'll read it one more time. The true value of a human being is determined primarily by the measure and the sense in which he has attained to liberation from the self. Now that is so freaking interesting to me because I run a workshop called Self-Awareness Workshop. Now, so this self-awareness workshop, the basic foundation of this is that I show you the difference between the self and the awareness, right? So we all think of self-awareness as being aware, like knowing what's going on in our mind, in our heart, in our body. But if you actually deduce the actual word itself, there's two things there. There's the self and the awareness. Now, the self is the form that we think of ourselves, of who we are and what we are. So who we are is that I know we are a woman, we are a mother, we are a nurse or a doctor. What we are is that we are We are, I don't know, we are an achiever, we are a pastor, a priest. We have this form. We're tall, we're short, we're big, we're small, we're brown, we're black, we're white, black hair. We've got, you know what I mean? Like we have a form that we can see, we can touch. It's like this crystal, for example. It's a form, or this little capsule of the terra oil. It's like we can touch it. It's a form, right? So we have a form. Now that's the self that we've created. It's we've believed that to be, we believed ourselves to be a priest. We've believed ourselves to be a woman, to have a gender. We've believed ourselves to be someone who's a parent or a teacher. But the other part of that is of us is the awareness, and so we are formless as well. So the awareness part does not change. We don't it doesn't grow old, it doesn't die. It's just a form. It's the ever observing form. And so when Eckhart Tolle, for example, was talking about in his book, The Power of Now, in the beginning of his book, when he was suicidal and had this spiritual awakening, because in his mind, he was thinking, I cannot live with myself anymore. I cannot live with myself anymore. I cannot live with myself anymore. And then all of a sudden, he realized, if I can't live with myself anymore, who am I and who is myself? So it was so painful for him that the awareness had literally split from the self. And that was the awakening, is that he all of a sudden became aware that, hang on, so there is a self and there is an I observing the suffering of the self. And so Einstein, before he was famously known for, was talking about the true value of a human being is when he can attain true liberation from the self. And it comes back to when you want to break any kind of cycle, when you want to break any kind of habit. And let's talk about the cycle of toxic relationships. It's the beginning of being aware of yourself, that self that has come to be, where that self had formed its belief systems from, and tracing it right back to those experiences. I had to go through this, inner child work, integration work, and writing my book, and just going through understanding exactly how this self was formed, that she came to a point where she had a near death experience and everything was falling apart. It was a reverse engineer kind of work. And so it's that self, it's that the basic self awareness, which is the liberation from the self, that all these ascended masters, I would say. Now I would even, I don't know, someone one day will call Albert Einstein as an ascended master. I can, that's my futuristic point of view, is that because he's just so wise, that he's not really just someone who invented the theory of relativity. His wisdom is so profound, it's not funny. So that would be, as we go through this free 5-day challenge of breaking the cycle of toxic relationships starting Monday. I'm going to take you through fast results. Yes, every day you will have a breakthrough. Every day you're going to be able to say to yourself, oh my freaking G. You will have that breakthrough, and then you continue to have that breakthrough, and that momentum will build so that your awareness is going to be inevitable, right? And it's the experience is going to be so delicious that you don't want to stop, because you're starting to see exactly what it could feel like when you've liberated yourself from the self that had developed an affinity to toxic cycles. And I'm just so excited about that possibility for everyone. And the possibility that I see is just so clear, because I've done it on my own, and I help people do it now. And just imagine, Gary here is saying, toxic relationship with her daughter, or no, her daughter in a very toxic relationship. Imagine when you learn these tools, and this level of awareness. Imagine how much you can help your daughter, for example, Carrie. How much you can help people that you love, how much you can change your future, you know, and how much you will be able to bridge the gap between you and your soulmate, because you have a soulmate. But the problem is that soulmate is probably like lifetimes away. Because the more you immerse yourself in toxic relationships, the more you create space between you and the soulmate, because you're distancing yourself from your highest truth. And your highest truth is true love. You know, the more you immerse in dark, toxic negativity, you're further away from the truth. And so the idea is to bridge that gap, break the cycle, bridge the gap, break the cycle, bridge the gap, and be one with love, be one with what you really deserve, what your birthright, which is true love. Tanika is sharing here. I was in a domestic violence relationship a few years ago, but still suffer with PTSD from it, and I struggle a lot sometimes on a daily basis. Yes, Tanika, I know what it's like. You know, there's these moments when you just it's if you could just, you know, when you feel, when you have a moment when you're thinking to yourself and you're praying, if I could just have a minute of relief from this pain and this anxiety, if I could just have a full 30 minutes of just space and breathing and just peace, I would be so, you know what I mean? Like I'm with you there. Like I was there. It's such a dark place. It's almost like a really heavy, I don't know if you've been through a backstage of a big stage, and there's these heavy curtains. It's so heavy that so takes two people to like pull it back. It feels like that, like a heavy drape that's just, you can't pull it back. Like it takes so much strength, you can't be bothered, you know. So you just stay in the dark. um yeah, so I'm going to just leave that link here again on the comment, and invite you guys one more time into this free 5-day challenge. And I will leave you with just one thought before you go to bed on this Friday night, is that to just remember, remember a time in your, just sit in a quiet moment and do pay attention to your breath. We can do it together now if you want. If you just want to sit comfortably, I invite you to just sit comfortable, whatever it is that you're doing now. If you're sitting down, get comfortable. And if you are in your office, get comfortable in your chair. If you're in your bed, get comfortable in your chair. You want to close your eyes and just listen to my voice. But where I'd like you to go is just to have a space, first of all, where you can just have a breath where it's just an unconditional breath. It's not for anyone. It's not a breath that is intended to, there's no survival, fight or flight intention. It's just a breath. It's just is. Just take it in and think of it as a blank breath, and just breathe it out. And that blank breath is just, it's blank. It doesn't necessarily have any purpose. It's just a cleansing white breath that is going in and flowing out. You breathe it in and you flow it out. It's a cleansing white breath. And do it one more time for me. And let it out. And that is all really I ask of you, is when you go to bed tonight, just, there are no requirements, unconditional love for self, which is the beginning of everything, is just cleansing. Just cleanse, like little by little. Like, think of it as soap. We have a shower every day. This is your soap. And you might need this soap every 15 minutes to start with, because things and thoughts pop up, and they give you anxiety, they make you feel tense. And so have that cleansing breath. It's not There are no strong requirements. You just are capable. It's in within you. Cleansing breath. It's your soap for the soul. And you shower the soul every 15 minutes if you need to, because this is your birthright to cleanse your soul. No one had, for a long time at school when we are children and when we're young adults, we are taught to follow rules. We are taught to respect our elders. We are taught to respect the neighbors, to just be polite, to be obedient, to feel obliged, to do. We are taught to serve others, but we are never reminded that we can cleanse ourselves. We are never told that if you're not feeling well, breathe in cleansing breath and breathe out cleansing. We are never taught that you are someone whose first action when you were born was to breathe in. And that's exactly what you did when you were a little baby, when you came out of your mother's womb, is you took a breath. That's the first thing that you've gifted yourself. And we forget how powerful that is. It was our birthright, literally our birthright. Breathe it. Breathe in the pure air. And we are blank canvases when we're babies. We are so pure and we're such sponges that anything that happens around us, we absorb it. That's how powerful we were. The only negative thing is that everything that's around us is mostly just so preconditioned with belief systems that are not serving us necessarily. And so we forget our birthright. And so I don't, I'm not here to tell you that do this, do that, or you should do. It's all about honoring yourself with that birthright. Cleanse, learning to cleanse. And so tonight, I just want you guys, ladies, please, to just remember that birthright, to cleanse yourself, a cleansing breath, if you have a partner, your partner might be going, what are you doing? And you might want to say, I'm cleansing, I'm doing cleansing breathing. Would you like to try it with me? It's a beautiful experience, especially if you when you do it with someone. And so, yeah, so join me on the free 5-day challenge starting on Monday on Break the Cycle of Toxic Relationships. We kick off at 8 o'clock Sydney time, Monday, the 19th of April. This is Grace Harris, your Atomic Self Love Project mentor. And I thank you for hanging out with me tonight. Again, Jess sends her love and apology. She will be back with you guys same time here on Friday. And I'll see you on my own show on Sunday at 7:15 in the evening. Thank you, everybody. I love you. Bye.